From Las Palmas de Gran Canaria, we decided to visit the islands of La Gomera and Tenerife, two neighboring volcanic worlds that seem to face each other, but as we'll show you, they are completely different. Although they are only 30 kilometers apart, millions of years of geological history separate them. Tenerife is a geologically young and still volcanically active island, while La Gomera is one of the oldest in the archipelago and hasn't erupted in millions of years. We flew from Las Palmas to Tenerife. Luckily, we didn't fly to the same airport where in 1977, two Boeing 747s collided on the runway, causing 583 deaths, the worst aviation disaster ever recorded. It was due to extreme fog. When you see this video, you'll understand exactly how that fog forms. But for now, we didn't spend much time in Tenerife. We decided to visit La Gomera first, so we could then fly directly back to the Iberian Peninsula. We flew from Las Palmas to Tenerife. We rented a car and drove to Los Cristianos, where we caught a ferry to San Sebastián de La Gomera, the island's capital. La Gomera is the second smallest of the Canary Islands and has a population of just 23,000. In many of La Gomera's villages, the 20th century emigration left behind quiet streets and a sense of a relaxed pace, quite different from the tourist intensity of other islands. So you come here to get a little lost, especially since the island's main attraction is Garajonay National Park, declared a World Heritage Site by UNESCO in 1986. The park, which covers more than 10% of the island's territory and is located in its center, preserves one of the best examples of laurel forest on the planet, a type of forest that covered southern Europe more than 20 million years ago, giving it a certain prehistoric feel. La Gomera boasts another little-known World Heritage feature, silbo gomero, a whistled language inherited from the island's Aboriginal inhabitants. Precisely because of the lack of volcanic eruptions in the last few million years, La Gomera's ravines are the most eroded and deepest of all the Canary Islands. Instead of spending their days climbing up and down mountains to meet and chat, the island's Aboriginal inhabitants learned to take advantage of the terrain's acoustics, communicating with whistles. The echo of the ravines allows silbo gomero to be heard up to 5 kilometers away. On the verge of disappearing in the 1960s, its survival is due to its inclusion in the school curriculum in the 1990s.
Come here! I don't understand you! What did you say? I'll see you later!
Something I was eager to film is an effect I already captured in a video more than 10 years ago, a rare phenomenon known as cloud waterfalls. It's more spectacular on the neighboring island of La Palma, but I was hoping to see some of it here. On mountainous islands like Tenerife or La Gomera, the humid winds from the Atlantic, the so-called trade winds, push low clouds toward the islands. When these masses of moist air collide with the mountains, they cool and become trapped on the windward slopes, forming what is known as a sea of clouds that keeps that part of the island damp and green. Sometimes the clouds manage to climb over the peaks and then slide down the other side like a waterfall, but as they descend, the air heats up quickly and the moisture evaporates, creating a rain shadow effect. One side of the island remains green and covered in vegetation, and the other dry and sunny. In the case of La Gomera, you can even see this on Google Maps. Unlike other Canary Islands, La Gomera doesn't have large beaches. Due to its rugged geology, the island lacks long stretches of sandy beaches, something unusual in the Canaries. This fishing village boasts one of the sunniest climates on the island. It's called Playa de Santiago, and its beach, like almost all the others, is made of black pebbles. Locals call their island La Gomera, La Isla Mágica, the magic island. This is due to the many legends it holds and real stories that seem almost like legends. For example, for centuries, La Gomera served as a hideout for European and North African corsairs and pirates. It's not just a legend. Watchtowers and secret fortifications still stand as proof. This is Agulo, our base on La Gomera. With a population of just over 1,000, it's the least populated municipality of the 4 islands that make up the province of Santa Cruz de Tenerife. In 2022, the Times magazine chose Agulo as the most beautiful village in Spain. I know of more than 100 Spanish villages that could rival it for that honor. But let's let you be the judge. First, we'll show you the accommodation we had chosen, a typical Canarian country house, and then we strolled together through the village and its surroundings. Above the village is the Abrante viewpoint, which is well worth a visit both for its views. On a clear day, you can see up to 3 islands, and for its architectural design. At 400 meters above Agulo, you have to overcome your vertigo to look out. From here, the magnificent Teide volcano seems much closer than it actually is. The clear Atlantic air creates extraordinary visibility. The red earth surrounding the viewpoint reminded us of the Australian desert. At the end of our stay, we returned to San Sebastián de La Gomera to catch the ferry back to Tenerife. For centuries, these islands were the last land before the unknown ocean. Before the world adopted Greenwich as its prime meridian in the 19th century, many European maps used the meridian of the neighboring island of El Hierro as the 0 point of longitude. For European cartographers, the world began here. And in 1492, before crossing the ocean, Christopher Columbus stopped his expedition in this very port. Here, he repaired his ships, loaded provisions, and set sail westward. This was his last stop before changing the world. For us, it was high time to finally visit the majestic Teide. After admiring it from the neighboring islands of Gran Canaria and La Gomera, it was time to end our Canary Islands trip in Tenerife, the largest, highest, and most populated island in the archipelago, in the entire Macaronesia region, and, incidentally, the second largest island on the African continent, second only to Madagascar. As a point of interest about Santa Cruz de Tenerife, the island's capital, it's worth mentioning that it's twinned with the Brazilian city of Rio de Janeiro. The reason is obvious. Its carnival is one of the oldest, most historic, and most distinctive festivals in Spain. It's considered the second most popular carnival in the world, after the one in Rio.
Ajo y jengibre para tu salud y luego verduras y pollo y garbanzos.
It looks good.
For a change of pace, we chose to stay in the heart of the tourist area this time. Puerto de la Cruz was one of the first tourist destinations in the Canary Islands, long before mass tourism reached the south of the island. In the 19th century, it was already attracting European travelers, especially British, fascinated by its mild climate and lush vegetation. Unlike other more modern destinations, tourism here grew without completely erasing the local essence, which explains the unique blend of traditional architecture, historic gardens, and hotels with a classic feel. One of its most recognizable symbols is Lago Martianes, a saltwater pool complex designed by the Canarian artist Cesar Manrique, where art and the volcanic landscape blend seamlessly. But beyond its iconic landmarks, the charm of Puerto de la Cruz lies in its contrasts. The intense black of its volcanic beaches against the green of its gardens, the Atlantic waves crashing against the coast, and in the background, the silhouette of Mount Teide, a reminder that all this beauty has a profoundly volcanic origin. Of our excursions around the island, a highlight was the visit to Teide National Park, declared a World Heritage Site by UNESCO in 2007. Winding roads, craters, and lava flows, with Mount Teide dominating the entire horizon. After Mount Fuji in Japan, this is the most visited volcanic landscape in the world. Mount Teide reaches 3,715 meters, the highest mountain in Spain. Measured from its oceanic base, Teide exceeds 7,000 meters in height, making it the third highest volcano in the world. And its shadow, at dawn stretching tens of kilometers across the Atlantic, is also one of the longest a mountain can cast on our planet. A shadow so perfect it seems drawn. Something we didn't get to see on our visit to Teide is the spectacle of the flowering of the red taginaste, a tall branchless shrub endemic to this national park, which blooms only once in its life, just before dying. And here again is the effect of the sea of clouds that we already mentioned in La Gomera. Seeing the clouds at your feet without flying in an airplane gives a bit of a feeling of being off-planet. The rest of the park surrounding Teide reinforces that impression. In fact, the similarity between the environmental and geological conditions of Teide National Park and those of Mars has made this volcanic enclave a benchmark for studies related to the red planet. Instruments that will travel to Mars, supposedly to reveal past or present life on that planet, are tested here. Some of them are already en route to Mars as part of the ExoMars expedition, while others, such as new robotic vehicles, are still in the testing phase. The park is also home to the Teide Observatory, one of the world's most important sites for solar observation. The altitude of the location, its proximity to the equator, and the quality of the Canary Islands skies, especially those of Tenerife, make this observatory one of the best places in the world to study the universe. The image quality is excellent, and even the weather conditions are ideal for astronomical observation, because the layer of clouds we saw forming below the observatory blocks any possible light pollution. For all these reasons, Teide National Park is the first World Heritage Site to be designated a starlight destination, a privileged location for stargazing. And there's more. This place prompted the creation of a pioneering law in Spain in 1988 called the Sky Law, which regulates light, atmospheric and radio pollution, as well as air routes to ensure dark skies. From here, it's possible to observe 83 of the 88 constellations that grace the starry sky. After Teide and its national park, the most geographically interesting place to visit on the island is probably the Los Gigantes area, formed by the volcano's most recent lava flow. The spectacular views truly live up to its name. No other island in Europe has more microclimates than this one. Tenerife is estimated to have more than a dozen distinct microclimates. In just 2,000 square kilometers, you can go from humid laurel forests to almost desert-like volcanic landscapes. The forests of Mount Teide are dominated by the Canary Island pine, Pinus canariensis, an extraordinary tree capable of resprouting even after intense fires thanks to its thick bark. And speaking of trees, one cannot leave Tenerife without visiting the charismatic Drago Milenario, millennial dragon tree in the town of Icod de los Vinos, one of the natural symbols of the Canary Islands. Although it is called millennial, studies estimate it to be between 600 and 800 years old. Our time was running out, and instead of visiting the capital, Santa Cruz de Tenerife, we opted to visit the island's second most populous municipality, and the third in the Canary Islands, San Cristobal de la Laguna, whose historic center is a World Heritage Site for being the first Spanish colonial city designed without walls. Conceived from the outset as an open and organized space, its grid layout, orderly, rational, almost modern for its time, served as a model for many Latin American cities. In fact, walking through its streets is, in a way, like walking through the draft of cities like Havana or Lima. The former capital of the Canary archipelago, until the 19th century, La Laguna has historically been considered the intellectual center of the Canaries. It was here that the first Canarian university was founded. Unlike the sunny south of Tenerife, La Laguna is often shrouded in a light mist and constant humidity. This phenomenon, linked to the trade winds, gives it an almost mysterious air and has even influenced its architecture, with interior courtyards and wooden balconies designed to provide shelter from the elements. And strolling here, in an atmosphere suspended between Europe and America, between history and the present, we leave you until our next video. Take care. If love is the food of life, travel is the dessert. Don't forget to eat your dessert.